My father was born in the crucible of empire of the British Raj, and he was a child during the Day of Action in 1946, and then the bloody partition of 1947. I don't know how the partition really affected him, but I do know that that generation of partition are almost now, much like him, all dead and gone. In the 1940s in India, all that was available was All India Radio and the newspapers. In the 1940s in England and the United States, the newspapers too, and then the 1950s and the coronation of the Queen, the television. And then you don't need me to tell you about the evolution of media in every decade since. Now, in 2026, as we're enchained to the algorithm, we watch the theatre of our rulers and increasingly of the ruled. I'm, after recording this video, going to watch Piers Morgan's piece to camera, a debrief or an interview with self, an autoethnography, after his interview with Russell Brand. Is it controversial in this day and age for me to say that when Russell Brand was the golden boy of this country, I saw him live in concert, so to speak, in a venue of about 30, where we all sat enthralled, both men and women, as if he was a new age temporal guru for a godless country and a godless generation. I take you back to the 1940s and my father and the generation of Hindu gods and deities and masjids and gurdwaras, and yes, some churches too, of prayer and sectarian violence and redemption and retribution, and in some cases no reconciliation, who knows. But now we are not wedded to our religions, or at least I'm not, and most of the people watching this are not, and do leave some comments below, helps generate the algorithm. And I'm about to watch a man whom I first saw on the television stood in Harrods behind a princess who died on the sacrificial altar in a tunnel in Paris in 1997, the same tunnel through which I asked a taxi driver to take me when I was in Paris in 2012, me, an anonymous citizen in his 20s, from Britain but not of Britain, and having recently read Prince Harry's autobiography, I realised that this anonymous British citizen took the same route that the once third in line to the British throne took to see where his mother bled to death. And if you're thinking I've gone completely off script, I haven't. This is all a weave, as the vaudeville quasi-dictator in the White House would like to direct. And yes, Piers Morgan's interview is like some sort of orchestral. I think we've got that. I've got a doctorate. I'm still struggling with the language and struggling even more with keeping it all together in this time. So Piers Morgan with his orchestral, autoethnographic summary and précis of his interview with the man who has almost sat on all of our laps. This is Russell Brand, draped in tight black clothes and black eyeliner and manic eyes as he delivered his prose in that warm-up venue in London in 2016, a few months before I almost lost my mind. And I thought it was interesting that a man who is now going to be one of Piers Morgan's most viewed interviews, and indeed about which interview I've talked with people from all around the world, a man whose pursuit was fame, performed at a venue where no cameras were allowed. And then I think of my own re entry into stand up over these past few months. And oh, how the time has changed. And when the 23-year-old comperes introduced me, their jaws almost dropped to the floor when I said, I haven't taken the stage in 8 years. The last time I took to the stage was just after I had seen Ricky Gervais and Stuart Lee, and the few years before that Russell Brand. Men who've made millions, in Russell Brand's case, tens of millions, in Ricky Gervais's case, hundreds of millions. Men who've made millions from holding up a mic and talking, and yet I and we were not even offered a free drink. But that's how maladjusted capitalism, as a niece of mine has referred to it, affects all industries. And as soon as I took to the stage, the compere, who was about 20 years younger than me, she started recording, and I couldn't ask her to stop recording, unlike another Russell, Howard, he of the blinking, because I'm a nobody on that comedy stage. I'm an ex-lawyer, a failed lawyer, an academic on sabbatical for how many years, we don't know. And so I had to deliver my soliloquies in this environment of cancel culture whilst an amateur American singer with dazzling eyes, can we say that without being cancelled nowadays, recorded me on her phone, and then I went back again in a few weeks. And as my set bombed, just as all of the sets were doing that night, a boy with malintent in the audience started recording my set, and I couldn't stop him either. And I thought, how much has changed since when I used to tread the boards 15, 16 years ago, and I still give myself to an art form which has not given me a pound, shilling, or pence in return. And I thought, what's the difference between the performances I am giving and the performance that Piers Morgan is giving, that Russell Brand is giving, that Tucker Carlson is giving, that all of these performative shock jocks are giving? And as a frustrated writer, I think, wouldn't it be great to put some of these performances on stage? But I no longer have the links and connections, despite having a laptop and a phone, or a few phones, even a few laptops, and being able to reach out to anybody in the world and DM celebrities who, of course, will not read their DMs, for they have too many fans. And we, down amongst the have-nots of the showbiz world that we aspire to get into but are getting aged out of, and are fearful of the vicissitudes of fame, of name, of remembrance, but we still can't let it go, as if it's a lover whose Instagram stories we can't stop checking, and yet we flip from her Instagram stories to the pages of celebrities who will not check our DMs because they are saturated with the love of many, whilst we are yearning for the attention of a few, maybe for validation, but more rightly or more truthfully in 2026 for a bit of cash money. And the young drillies who are on the urine stained staircases on some videos are making millies, the drillies making millies. But then again, being a lawyer myself, I know a lot of these young drillies are also doing 25 years, big man sentences, 30 years to life. And indeed, that was something that Piers Morgan was talking to Russell Brand about, the potential of a custodial sentence. And as an ex-lawyer myself, I hesitate when defendants get all up in your face like Russell Brand was on us and in our faces at that venue where we paid £50 a pop, but now we can see it all for free on YouTube, just as long as the ads stop our attention span for a little bit. And I just think, what a mess we're in. Or in some ways, is this revolutionary? The revolution will not be televised, but it will be live streamed. And you must subscribe to see how it all concludes.